the harder things are, the sweeter the reward is. And so to get to the point that I am now, I'm the most lucky son of a bitch I've ever met in my life.
All right, guys, we're back for another episode of Defining Success with Matt Foster. I got Pasha Esfandiary here with me, the amazing quiet killer. Super excited to have you on. I appreciate you making the time. I know you've been traveling a lot. Where have you guys been bouncing around at lately, man?
Oh man, we just got back from a pretty epic trip, or what we call our baby moon.
Okay,
Um,
congrats on
Thank you.
future fatherhood.
On twins, so two for the price of one.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it right, just do it twice,
That's
right?
exactly right. Yeah. So we first went to Italy. I met my wife in Italy. She had been already traveling in Africa, and then took her father to Italy for his retirement. I met her in Italy. Then we went to Tel Aviv, Israel. After that,
Mm.
then we flew into Morocco. We went to Fez and Marrakesh, and then flew into then Portugal and Lisbon, and then we went to Scotland for my buddy's to surprise my buddy for his 50th birthday. And then we just got back a few days ago, and it's been kind of fun getting back into the rhythm of life, I guess.
Yeah, what was the time frame that you guys were gone for?
I was gone for 5 weeks. My wife was gone for 10 weeks.
Okay, got it. So
Yeah.
she really
Yeah.
got the full squeeze, and especially before twins, man. Being a newer dad myself, I have a 15-month-old Grayson Foster.
Congratulations.
Life changes up. You can't
Yeah.
help but change up once you got these little ones running around in your house and requiring more of you than expected, right? So that's
Yeah.
that's awesome. So, and I think that's
Thank you,
been a
bro.
testament to you guys too, right? Has been adventure. Adventure has always been kind of the backbone for you and Jessica of your guys' relationship and keeping it fun and just like exploring the world together, right?
I think I'll say this, and I always say that my wife keeps me young because I'm kind of naturally introverted. I can put my head down. I can work. I like my routine. But yeah, I love adventure. I love going out. My wife and I love to explore. We go to Burning Man every single year. So you know,
I've seen the kimonos.
yeah. So we try to live. We in the last yesterday was our 9 year anniversary. We've been together for 10 years. We got married on our
Congrats.
1 year anniversary. So we have had a really wonderful 10 years of a full spectrum of life. We've really been able and blessed to go travel the world together and build business together and now build community. And now, our next adventure is babies. But I evaluate life as in, I don't try to get too stuck into what I'm doing. I know I'm type A. I know that I can bull rush any of my goals, but she's really kind of the yin to my yang, where it's like, hey, well, you got to enjoy life also. So it's a foundation of our relationship is to go and have fun with each other and understand that one day, as morbid as it sounds, we're going to die, and it's going to be the memories and the experiences we're going to remember, and to be really reflective of that. So
Yeah, no,
yes.
I love that. It's kind of almost like you set a fitness goal, right? You'll just grind it out and eat the chicken and rice, but she's the type that'll make sure you have some ice cream along the way, right?
Yeah, which is not sustainable, man. I was thinking about having that kind of dedication to your life. I mean, unless you're just an extreme person, it's just not sustainable.
No.
So you'll get to your goals, but enjoy it and systematically, slowly eliminate things and
Yeah.
change around your lifestyle for those fitness goals.
Yeah, I think that leads up to a good point. 2023, for yourself, where do you find yourself? Kind of at this crossroads. You got twins coming. What are some things that you're up to right now in 2023? Business, and personal. I think we dived right into the personal, but business wise as well. Where are you at in 2023 right now?
Business has been interesting because so I'm in the commercial real estate. I buy mobile home parks. We're operators. We are
Yeah.
in nine different states. But it's been an interesting year because as our company has grown, we just are a little hovering under 20 full time employees now. We made a decision amongst myself and the founders of being overstaffed because we want to prepare for the next wave of properties we buy. But it's slow right now. Interest rates are really high. I'm not
Hmm.
going to go buy a deal that doesn't make sense. So, someone like myself who loves progress and who loves to hit goals and achieve goals, it's tough for me to just sit back and know that we're not progressing on that like statistical stat. But at the end of the day, you got to do what's right. You got to stick by the numbers. You got to make sure that the numbers work. The deals that you buy are no brainers. So we're just passing up on so many deals right now. We have so many investors are like saying, "Hey, we want to place capital with you because depreciation and our terms that we give are really good." But I just keep telling them, I have no idea when we can place your capital, which is, an interesting thing when people want to give you money. You're like, I don't know when.
It's
And
the
so,
other side of the problem. I think in the beginning stages of our investing journey, it's like like just trying to get something together. But once you've reached certain levels, it's more like the other problem is like, man, we have $100 million. How do we play it? We have $50 million. How do we place it correctly and do right by our investors? And I could see that in you too. Like it's hard. I'm kind of wired the same way. If I'm not getting the action, and sometimes we have room to fortify the foundation a little bit more. That's what it sounds like. You got the dry powder stacked up, you got your staffing right, everybody's geared up, but now it goes back to like, all right, you want to hunt, you want to
yeah.
you want to get something at the end of your stick, right? So being in commercial real estate, I know we've heard a lot of doomsdayers on commercial real estate, especially the office space, right? Just everything changing over the last couple years. What's been some of your perspective around some of the operators that have had commercial and where you see it going in kind of the next year or two, and what some of those deals are kind of looking like? Because if you're passing up on a lot of stuff, right, you feel like you're kind of at the beginning end of not enough of a deal for what they're trying to bring to the market, right?
Yeah, I think that's what what you asked is a little loaded on like what are my thoughts on either what's the market going to do or what's my opinion on operators operating in times like this or times before. I have lots of opinions on that. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
I think a lot of people are getting into trouble right now. I think it's very sector dependent, right? In my sector in mobile home parks, at least I could speak for myself and my company. I can't speak for anybody else. There's
sure,
no stress within our company. We don't have variable rates. We don't have any loans that are coming due anytime soon. And even if we did, we always get a 5-year fixed. And if that 5 years, if you can't build up enough equity, you don't know what the hell you're doing already. So there's no stress within my company, but I do know of operators who are getting into trouble right now. They're not hitting their numbers. Investors are pissed. They're not meeting pro forma. It's because listen, at the end of the day, the the thing about real estate is that's quite interesting is that you're going to see this cycle over and over again. And I've seen it happen in the last, great recession is that people who got ahead of themselves, who got caught up in, wanting to make everything go right. So like this is my philosophy on commercial real estate or any real estate deal. If you are hoping that everything goes right in the deal, it's not a deal, right? And so there's enough deals out there that you can underwrite enough deals, but you just have to be more patient and more conservative to make sure that the deal that things can go wrong, there's a buffer to make it go wrong and still hit the numbers that you are going for. And so a lot of the operators now that the interest rates are high, the fact that they can't place capital, the fact that variable rate mortgage or loans are coming due right now, some people are not hitting numbers and lease ups too, in multifamily at least, which I'm not a part of. I have my own apartment complexes, but lease ups seem to be slower. Sales, even in the mobile home park industry, seem to be slower. So everything's just slower. But again, we've built enough cushion. So I think if you're an investor ever buying a deal, the ones that get in trouble are going to get in trouble at times like this. And so if you want to be in the game for 30 years, you just have to be conservative always.
yeah. And we've been blue skies for a long time, right? Like skill set wise, you were able to like put some money and put some effort towards something, and usually it was working out decently in your favor if you weren't completely lopsided in your mindset, right? But now what it's really coming down to is skilled operators that had a mindset of, I'm in this game, like you said, 20, 30 years. So your mind frame is different than getting a 7-year return or 5-year return or whatever, proverbial gun you kind of put to your head to get a deal done. when it comes to mobile home parks, so I'll focus on where you guys focus. When it does come to mobile home parks, what do you guys typically look for in those deals? Minimum doors. What are some of the things you guys are hunting for when it comes to mobile homes? I do like that sector,
Yeah.
especially with affordable housing and recession proof and all that, right? That feels like a really great place to be, especially going forward with a lot of uncertainty. But what do you guys typically look for? What's kind of your guys' buy box when it comes to mobile home parks?
Yeah. I mean, I think first and foremost, we're looking at 50 lots and above. We'll
Okay,
buy any amount of
minimum.
lots over 50, but minimum 50.
Okay,
And we're looking at, secondary and tertiary markets over 50,000 populations, anchored in by strong manufacturing jobs. And that's the very, bird's eye view of what we're looking for. We're also looking for not a ton of vacant lots. Okay, so in the mobile home park space, you can have a lot that's just empty dirt and you have to bring a new home in. And then you can have a lot with a mobile home in it that is owned by the park owner, which is a park owned home. And
sure.
then there's the, the really what we're all going for is the tenant owned home on top of the lot. And so we don't look for a ton of vacancies of lots, right? So if we have to bring in a lot of homes in, we probably will usually avoid that, right? So because it's just that's where most operators in the mobile home park space, there's a lot of operators that are really good at it. It's just it takes the most effort. It's really hard. It's really slow. It's really clunky, and it's hard to really pro forma for it. So we stay away from those typically.
When it comes to say 50 lots, you're not wanting to see maybe more than 10 or 5 empty. Is there some kind of percentage that you guys typically run off of?
Yeah, I mean it's about 10 would be the most, but then everything else would have to make sense, right? We
Yeah.
really don't want to see more than like 10%.
Okay.
But really it's all kind of a sliding scale. What's the market? What's everything?
Make
We take all those factors in, yeah.
Makes sense. I know some mobile home park guys only like to buy parks that are like on city utilities. What's kind of some of your thoughts around like septics, wells versus city utilities?
Yeah, so every park that we've ever purchased so far, I think we're a little or what we're like 17 or 18. I can't really remember. They're all on city
And
utilities.
that's a big no getting away from that, right? Or it's
Yeah,
it's a it's a more
the
of a question mark a lot of
The
times.
only one that we would consider is septic, but
Okay.
then we do a ton of due diligence on the septic, and we've never found a septic park that had a good septic system that we felt very comfortable with. So it has to really pass all the metrics, and so we've underwritten two deals. One we walked away from because the septic system was just a complete disaster, and then to be able to bring it up to like code and speed and where we would want it was too much of a capex compared to the deal. And then the other one just it didn't really pass any metrics whatsoever, so we just walked away from it.
Yeah, got it. So 50 minimum, city utilities, secondary, tertiary markets anchored by strong manufacturing. Is that a typical client that you find that leases up or tends to want to live in the mobile home? Is someone that works in blue collar work basically, right? Um, that would be happy to live in the park and have a good quality of life and a lower payment, right?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I say strong manufacturing jobs is because if you're in any of these cities that are about 50,000 population or roughly around that, you're not having any Googles there or any Amazons there. So
Yeah.
the real jobs there are manufacturing jobs. So yes, typically um, across the board, most of our tenants are blue collared. There's obviously a mix of everything, but it's mostly blue collar. So yeah,
Yeah. I'll ask one more question on mobile home
sure.
parks and then we'll go in another direction. I know you're a guy that likes to read books, get mentors, speed up the process, get in the right rooms to, expedite your learning curve. What what are some of your like good resources when it came to learning how to invest in the mobile home park game? And then also, did you take on any direct one-on-one mentors that really helped kind of open your eyes to how to do it correctly and not lose your shirt when it came to the mobile home park game.
Yeah, I mean, so what I did is I went and read books on mobile home parks. I went and read everything that I could, listened to podcasts, typically what we would all typically do at this point. But I really was lucky to have mentors and partners, uh, partner who knew everything about mobile home parks.
Okay.
So, yeah, I had all that and I leaned on a lot of people's experience. And then now I've been in it for a while and I know it enough. So,
Sharpen the
yeah.
edge. Good stuff. Well, I appreciate that. Where I do want to go to is I know that the reason that you have the great personality that you do, and that a lot of people like you, is that typically what happens is you go through a ton of obstacles in your life, right? So you have a different sense of gratefulness for today, for the people around you, for the things that you have. Sometimes looking around, probably even in your own life, and be like, man, like who would have thought, right?
Yep.
That we'd be here.
That's
And so I
exactly right.
know you guys immigrated here from Iran, but talk to me a little bit about your guys' story. It definitely wasn't an easy one. What was Pasha's story from coming over here, and some of the obstacles that you had to overcome to get to this beautiful place that people see you now.
um, it's been an interesting road, Matt. That's for sure. So my father immigrated my brother and myself here when I was 3. So like 1987,
Okay.
my brother was about 8. My mother stayed in Iran, so they got divorced. My dad knew he had to give up everything. So, big kudos to my dad. He literally, you know, had wealth. He had a, factory. He had everything. My mom, like connections, whatever. He just gave up everything for us and to move to states for a better life. And thank God he did. See all the shit that's happening now in Iran. It's sad to hear and sad to
Very,
see.
very, very sad.
So sad, right? So thank God he did. Growing up was interesting. I think not having a mom around definitely made me depressed.
Okay.
Most of my life, and it's really started to kind of hit home for me. I started really kind of falling into some depressional patterns when I was younger, and it stayed with me until easily I could say till about 26 years old, until I started doing a
Mhm.
lot of personal development work and emotional intelligence work. So it wasn't easy. There was times where I was very suicidal and I thought this was my last day. And then just kind of sitting there being like, all right, if I don't do it, I really got to make a life for myself. And so it hasn't been easy. Um, but that was like the perceived hardness that I put onto myself. Now, the thing about this, Matt, is that although that was the hardest times for myself, it really was. I now look at it as the biggest gift that anyone could have ever given me. Right?
Yeah.
Like an easy example is when I was playing poker. I was really good at identifying micro patterns in people because when I was depressed, all I would do is just observe everybody else. Right? I would
Like
just,
kind of go into your shell, and you're just looking
yeah,
outside of your shell, just how they do what they do.
that's 100% correct. And so, being in high school, even though like I wouldn't say that I was a loner, but I was very introverted. I would rather go play video games. And people knew me. I would rather just kind of be by myself and watch people and, you know, all that. So, I mean, and it translates into who I am now. I'm also like, if you meet me, I have this saying, it's like the best day ever. Today's the best day ever, no
It
matter
is.
what
It
day
is.
it
Yeah.
is. And it sounds like stupid and cliche, but I say it to my friends and like people that I just meet, and they're like, "This is the best day ever." I'm like, "Yeah, you have no idea. This is actually the best day ever." I'm alive. I'm happy. And coming from my background of the lows that I had, today just is from what I've used to experience. Today's just great, and so nothing really affects me too much, Matt. Like things don't get me down for long because I've already been in this shit for 18 years, and so it's kind of like whatever. I'll just bounce back. I already have like
Yeah.
nothing's hard at this point for me.
Yeah.
Um, so it's it had its trials and tribulations of growing up and being insecure and having to relearn that and learning that as an adult and letting people in and recovering from the trauma that I put on myself and my mom leaving and all that. And so it's been a difficult journey, but man, like I swear, the harder things are, the sweeter the reward is. And so to get to the point that I am now, it's like I'm the most lucky son of a bitch I've ever met in my life. That's for 100% fact.
Love it. I think
Yeah.
Brad Lee, who I know well, always likes to say that if somebody gave you $10 million but you couldn't wake up tomorrow, would you take it? And it's like,
Yeah,
no.
it's not stupid.
Yeah, obviously, right? So that means when you woke up this morning, it was worth more than $10 million or 100 million or any amount of money that you could have been handed the day before to not wake up, right?
Yeah.
So I really think that you live that personality. I think going, like you said, like going through it was the worst, but also looking back now in hindsight, it just really creates that grit and just that tough skin, right? For myself, being a dealer for 10 years, and then being out of that industry. What's funny is it's kind of like being a bartender or server. When you've been in a server role for a long time and people can drink and people can treat you however they want to, you just
Yeah.
really learn to let things roll off your back and find a way to navigate what for some other people are like, oh my god, like how can I handle this, right? And it's like, yeah, man, people don't treat me ever as close to as rude as they could have on a poker table, right? And then it just
Yep.
builds up that muscle. I love the gratefulness, and I think when I was thinking about interviewing you, one of the things that I really wanted to focus on was likability, actually, even on the poker table. So I know that being a loner already sets you up for seeing patterns. Like you said, in high school, you were probably watching like, oh, this crowd hangs out with this crowd, and you're kind of always putting the puzzle together. Which when people actually do get to hear you talk, you're like, oh snaps, like this guy knows what's going on without them even realizing it, right? So when it comes to poker, I know that you had a stint, Antonio won in 2004, like 1.1
Yep.
million, right? Which probably set up
1.4.
to like, oh, wow, we could actually make some money from this game. And for yourself, you kind of followed along and playing the cash games, like not really looking for tournament glory, looking more to like, hey, how do I crush and make some money
Hmm.
from this thing, right? So, two-part question. One is, the likability part of you really is effective on the poker table, because for myself, after watching probably about 500,000 hands that I've dealt personally between tournaments and live games and watching people play, I've seen the best pros actually get along with everybody on the table in a friendly kind of way and actually beat the hell out of them at the same time. So likability, right? And then part of your poker journey in that period of time when you were in your early 20s, when you really were grinding it out and trying to take it on as a profession. So what are your thoughts on that?
Sure. Likability in anything goes a long way,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not just poker. It's just if you're likable and you give off good energy and people are attracted to you, they're going to want to work with you. They're going to want to play with you. So I think, as you said, the best poker pros in the world are some of the nicest, genuine people because people pick up on that. And the ones that are the most successful are the ones that are going to have other people want to lose money to them, right?
Hmm.
Like, I learned that very early on. Like, there's some freaking stiffs at the poker table who wear the glasses, who don't talk. I call them a mutant, but whatever. They don't say shit. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
what value are you bringing to anyone? What like bad player or fish, as we call it in the poker world,
Mhm.
would want to lose money to you because there's no part of you that I like you. And so you don't get invited to any games. No one wants to give you action. No one's going to gamble with you. So I think a lot of people get very short-sighted and short-term results oriented. One of my things that I picked up very quickly was people love to play poker with me because I am fun. I am when I'm on the poker table, I am enjoying it. And back then when I used to drink, if a fish wanted to take a shot, I'll be the first one to take a shot with you.
Yes.
If the fish wanted to go out to a bar and stop playing poker, trust me, they're asking me to go and go out and play like or have drinks with the fish, and then we'll get into game later, and I'll be the first one to address it on at it. And I learned this from some of the smartest people that I know is like address the elephant in the room. Like a fish wants to play poker with you. I'll just say like you're the worst player. I can't wait to take your money. Come get me. It creates this dynamic where it's like they understand where you're coming from and they don't feel taken advantage of, because there's also other poker players and also in business and in life where they always are trying to angling, right? They're not trying to try their true intentions, where I'll be the first guy to be like, I can't wait to get drunk with you, and if we happen to be at the poker table and we play heads up, I need to make rent, so like like let's do this.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
makes it more fun. and it also makes it so that I don't feel like I'm ever like cheating anybody
Eh, eh,
or
yeah, they knew
like
what they did. They knew what they were getting into, and it's kind of like
100%.
sales too, right? It's like shopping with friends, right? Um,
Yeah.
there's
This-
there's a difference, and same thing with networking, right? Networking versus building relationships, it's different, right?
100%.
It's and that's goes back to the human being game, and that's one of the biggest things that I learned. I think poker is a lesson for life, right? I get to see when you have money and how that affects you emotionally, coming and going on a regular basis, and getting to watch the different personality types, how that plays out. I feel like it's a big pool for watching life, right?
Yeah.
But back to young Pasha, what was the aspiration? I know 21 started grinding. The games were softer and bigger, and people were really learning No Limit, right? What was some of the aspirations at that time? Did you have an idea of just being like a grinder, like, hey, I'm just gonna be a poker grinder and just get up into the nosebleed stakes at
No,
some
not
point?
really, Matt. I wish I could tell you that I had this grandiose plan that I knew exactly what I was doing, but
Yeah,
I was a college dropout and I just knew school wasn't for me. It wasn't built for me.
yeah.
The speed that at college and classes go were like tremendously slow for me. So, I got into poker and I just started making money and I was young, right?
Mhm.
And so I was just enjoying this kind of wave. I just had this newfound freedom. I became a young adult. I finally hit puberty at 18 and a half years old and I started making money really quickly. And so I was growing up. I think a lot of experiences that I think someone would have in high school, I started having at around 21, 22, 23, 24,
Mm.
going out, having fun, drinking and learning how to socialize with women and all that. So all those years were really kind of blurry. But the one thing I was really good at was I would go at a poker table and I know how to win.
Yeah.
I knew how to win. I knew how to play, but I didn't have great money management skills either. I would win, 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 and then I would have one really bad night. I know I would lose. I would tilt and I would lose everything, and I wasn't as in control of my emotions then as I was after all my emotional intelligence work, after all my personal development work. But it was really fun. I had an incredible 21 to 25. I traveled the world. I got to play poker. I made more money than most people would after a 20-year career. But I also blew everything. I also lost everything too. So it was a very interesting time for me.
Yeah.
But again, I learned a ton of lessons. I learned money management because of it. I learned bankroll management because of it. And it really kind of translates into who I am now because of all those experiences accumulating into uh, recent success,
Yeah, I
and
feel like real estate is almost kind of a nice counterbalance to poker, because what typically happens, like you said, right, is you go bust, right? You go bust, you end up borrowing, you're working your way out of borrowing money, you pay it back, you grinded it up again, you pick a higher stake game and blow. Yeah, I think Phil Galfin posted about it recently too. He said something about losing half of his $800,000 bankroll at 23 or something like that, right,
right.
in one night. And sometimes that'll just decimate someone. You go, and I even commented on the post about not going full tilt and zeroing out, or continuing to be prideful that you're trying to take a shot at a game that you're actually not built to sit at that game yet.
Right.
And he could have easily gone like, no, that was just a run of circumstance or whatever it was, and then from there, go on to blow the rest of that 400 and maybe be out of poker forever, right, and not be the Phil that he is now.
Which
Um,
happens to a lot of most of them. That's what would happen.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So when it came to real estate, I think one of the things that, correct me if I'm wrong, that you'd probably would say is a counterbalance or an enjoyment versus poker, was that real estate does have this kind of longer curve, but there is a little bit more stability versus the variance that you got to deal with, and actually the amount of bankroll that actually somebody needs, even if you're a good player, when you're playing No Limit, how many buy-ins that you actually need to support you in playing, if you're getting up to like 25, 50 or 50, 100, versus really grinding out real estate, and the wins are smaller and slower, but in the long run that bucket has been more of your security, that counterbalances versus going bust, playing cards in some ways.
Yeah. Poker was always a means to an end for me. I never loved poker as much as I think my brother or other people who are really, really passionate about it.
Yeah.
It was just something I excelled at very quickly, and I was able to make really good money at it. And for me, it was always a means to end to go buy real estate. Real estate was always my end game. When I made the decision to get out of poker, it was because I just told this story the other day. Is I'm sitting at a 5-10 game at Bellagio, and I'm looking around, and I'm just thinking, oh, thinking to myself, this is such a grind. I don't love this lifestyle. I want a family one day, and I don't want to have a lifestyle where I'm up till 4 in the morning and then my kids are going to wake up at 6. It's not like it's coming to me that this isn't really what I want. And then a whale sits down, like at a 5-10 game that I knew we've played with before. And myself and the other poker pros are just like licking our chops. We're like so happy that this whale sat down. And a whale, for who doesn't know, is
Yeah.
someone who can lose a lot of money at the poker table and just doesn't care,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
A fish is just a bad player. A whale is just like a really rich person who's just going to dump a bunch of money.
And all the
And
real poker players, guys, are sticking around to make sure the whale gets eaten.
correct, right? And so I'm sitting there and I just kind of had this mini epiphany like, wow, we all hoped for this whale to sit down at our table. But I don't like to give a lot of merit into hope. I like to create my own results, right?
Mm.
So why am I sitting at a poker table hoping that a whale will sit down? Why wouldn't I want to be the whale? Why would I would rather be the whale who can lose 50,000 in one night and not give a shit rather than the poker pro who's hoping a whale sits down to win maybe 5,000 of that 50,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it just dawned on me like, holy shit, okay, what's my ceiling in poker? Do I like love it immensely? Like I love it, but I don't like immensely love it. And then what's my ceiling? Where am I going to be in 10 years from now if I keep grinding here?
Mm.
Right? And where are my ambitions? Is it lined up? And it just was very clear to me that with my ambitions of where I want to go in my life, on just a financial, I'm not talking about everything else, but just on a financial level, that I have so much higher ceiling if I go and build a business, if I get into real estate, I learn real estate investing. And that's what I really did. I mean, my whole thing was I want to become a whale. And so I really took 2 steps back from what I was doing and I learned everything about real estate. I went and interned for free for like a family friend of mine for months and I learned the game and then I just applied and dedicated all myself to real estate investing, which is hard at first because my first deal I made what $3,000.
That's what I was just about to say. I was like, give a testament to, and there's some nights on the poker table where you probably won that in one
In
hand,
in one hand. Yeah,
in one,
easy. I would bluff off more than that in one hand.
yeah,
You
exactly. So to
know?
grind this all out, work for free, and then close your first deal. But I imagine that even though the dollar amount was smaller, it was kind of a confirmation of the game for you of like, hey,
100%.
I can. It's like a little token, like this little token of like, hey, this is a game I can beat, and if this is winning it at the smallest level, it can just be more and more than this, and that game elevates way beyond the poker table does.
Oh, for sure. And that's what it was. You know, I got a taste that I was like, oh shit, okay, cool, I could do this. Cool. I made mistakes. I'm gonna improve. If I can already make money and then I know I can improve with this experience, I'm gonna crush it. And then I just was like after that, it was just kind of lights out, like let's go.
Yeah, yeah. So kind of walk me through a little bit of that journey. When was the years that you were starting to kind of maybe phase out of poker or kind of create a more limited version of poker just to pay the bills and really pursue real estate? What years were was that for you?
It was roughly around like 2010, 2011
Mm-hmm.
when I started to really take on flipping homes in Vegas.
Yeah.
And I did that for close to 4 or 5 years. And then we moved to Los Angeles. I flipped one home here and
Okay.
then realized that I was just such a small fish in a big pond, where in Vegas, I was kind of a bigger player there.
Hmm.
And then realizing, going back to my poker learning lessons, that game selection is the most important thing and you want to go where there's less competition.
Sure.
And so I just followed that theory, and the area that I had chose was in the path of progress. And so I saw a lot of land available to go buy and develop on hillside. I've never developed in my life, but I just decided to go buy a bunch of land that I knew I could go develop on. And then I started developing on that land. So I went and took all my money, bought a bunch of land, and started developing on that land. And I did that for close to about 5.5 years. which then I transitioned into apartment complexes about almost 2.5, 3 years ago now. And then I did mobile home parks for the last 2 years.
Got it. Got it. So it's been kind of a combination of mobile home parks and multifamily, kind of the last couple years.
Right. No, no more apartment complexes for the last 2 years, but
Okay.
well, I started to do that. But then again, so I wanted to create passive income and I wanted to start to scale because
Yeah.
development game is just so slow. It's Los Angeles, very cumbersome. Neighborhood councils suing my neighbors suing me. It's just a bullshit game here in Los Angeles. Started getting to apartment complexes, realizing that everyone is getting into apartment complexes. Cap rates are super compressing, and I just said, man, the returns that I want to make that make me happy are not here. And then I started, reading, looking for other opportunity, which was mobile home parks, and bought my first one, and realized that one was performing better than my apartment complexes. And then I was like, oh, no brainer, less competition, higher returns, more work, but I don't care. I'll do the work and let me figure this out also. And so that's kind of where I'm at now.
Like at this point in 2023, looking out at kind of back to the mobile home park game a little bit. Um, if you were coming in again, are you still happy with, because that work that's needed on mobile home parks versus apartments is a little bit more cumbersome? There's still just like anything, right? There's always opportunity, but from your vantage point, that there still is definitely opportunity in the mobile home space going forward, or is that starting to feel crowded, just like how multifamily was, and you're kind of looking for the next,
It's
the
getting more
next,
and more crowded
yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
You know, it just
It's gotten
is.
popular again.
It's
Just,
gotten
just
popular. People want it. People understand it. People want it because of depreciation, because it gives higher depreciation than
they're
multifamily.
not making any more of
They're not making any more of them. And so, you know, people are just flooding into it. The people are yield chasers. People are smart. People will get into it. But there's the reason why it's a higher barrier of entrance is that there's more people that don't know what they're doing and there's less training around it. So
Mhm.
we have a little bit of a time frame. I predicted we only have about another good 4 or 5 years for the properties at least that we like and find because a ton of money's flying into it.
Because
So
the right now, what's still held by ownership that's maybe not managing it correctly, they've had it for 20 years,
yes,
30 years, stuff like that, right? Those are still the people that, for them it makes sense to sell, for you it makes sense to buy. Those are still, and maybe a 4 to 5 year runway on clipping some of those deals while you can, and then kind of always the next iteration, right?
that's correct. I mean, because in multifamily, you're not going to find, I mean, unless you're like 20 units and under in certain markets, you're not going to be buying from mom and pop sellers anymore. Like, we're
Mhm.
still buying from mom and pop like sellers. And so, but all of these deals that are coming on market now that we're not buying and that we are buying are from operators like myself. So, in 5 years, when everyone goes to sell, they're going to be to other operators. And so this is why I predict it's only going to be about another 3 to 5 year window that I really see these deals still make sense for how much we want to make.
It makes a ton of sense. Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna take another pivot with you.
All
Your
right.
your beautiful wife, Jessica. Your guys' story. Your guys' upcoming twins, which is
Yep.
amazing accomplishment.
Thank you. Thank you.
Surrogacy. The journey in that. Tell me a little bit about kind of how you guys met, and then what, because of course she got you to move to LA, right? That was
She
the
did.
transition, right?
She did.
And which
Yeah.
in essence was the best thing ever, because it got you out of the flipping game, which would have played itself out in a good way, but it forced you to become even better by living in LA. How'd you guys end up meeting?
Um, so it was very interesting. So one of that we're talking about fish,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and so I had this really like good friend of mine, but he was a major fish. He was a whale in Houston, and we became really good friends. And he knew it, and like we'd always play heads up. It was a beautiful thing. Like he just, and I was actually renting a house from him, right across the street from him, and we would always play heads up, and I would always win my rent money from him all the time. It was like the joke. It's like, let's just play poker, and I'll pay the rent.
Yeah,
So
cash
my
him out,
girl,
cash him out after the game.
yeah, it was beautiful. It was honestly a beautiful setup. My girlfriend at the time and I became really good friends with him and his girlfriend at the time.
Mhm.
And and then in Houston, then I ended up moving away from that place, and me and my girlfriend broke up, and him and his girlfriend broke up, but like unannounced. And unreally unknowingly, at the same time I moved to Vegas, uh, that girl Nancy moved to Vegas also. So my friend's
Okay.
ex girlfriend,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so we actually ended up living in the same condo complex together. So we became really good friends,
Yeah.
and just friends.
Yeah.
And so she had a hard time of making friends in Vegas, but she had this one friend Jessica who had just got out of a really bad relationship, and we all started kind of like having dinners together and kind of all hanging out together, and I would invite her over to my barbecues and pool dates and whatever, and she forbid me to go after Jessica. Like, bad mistake. And then she told Jessica not to go after me,
Yeah.
um, because like there's theories floating around against friend groups, but whatever. And so, but if you forbid me to go after something, or if you tell me I can't, I have, there's a forbidden fruit there,
Game on.
game on. And so, and it was fun, right? Like we were like little kids sneaking behind mom's back, and
Yeah.
like this. So
Probably added like an extra like little spice
for
to the
sure it did.
relationship for sure because you're not supposed to,
Yeah,
right?
but she also was like the perfect. Like I knew, like when I saw her, I was like, oh, this is like my type of girl, and like this is
Yeah.
what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But there was about 6 months of me flirting with her where she would just not have any time of day with me. Um, last night was our 9 month anniversary, our 9 year anniversary. Sorry, and she finally admitted to me that she was in love with me like from the get go, but she just wanted to play hard to get the whole time and really enjoyed me like chasing her, which I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. I mean, I chased her for about 6 months, and then we had a very like strong connection. And then it was just really like she's the only girl that I've ever like loved this much, and I ever had to
Mhm.
fight for. And there's like a whole book that we could write about how we got together, how we broke up, how we I had to like win her back and like break her up from her ex, like another boyfriend that she had got with, and like it was just very crazy, but she's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And we uh, we had to find a surrogate. Unfortunately, she can't have children. She had hysterectomy, and that's
Mhm.
actually what brought us back together. She got cancer. My friends forced her to tell me, and then I just couldn't bear my life without like knowing that she had to go through that. So it brought us back together, and I just wouldn't leave her side
Mhm.
since then. And then essentially we've been together ever since. And we froze our embryos 7 years ago. She could still produce eggs, and then we found a surrogate just recently. And then so yeah, we're expecting in November, and we put in two embryos, and they both caught. So
Do you guys know the genders? Is it a boy
we do
girl,
boy
boy,
girl,
boy girl?
yeah, boy girl.
How perfect does it get, man? You
I'm
know,
telling you, I'm the luckiest son of a bitch I know.
you
I'd
are.
rather, I'm just so lucky and blessed in my life. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing.
That's exciting, man. So, and then you guys continue to write the story. I had heard that one of your favorite books was Die with Zero from Bill
Yeah.
Perkins, right?
Yep.
So I feel like what I like too is like when people do talk about books that they really enjoy, that their life is reflective of that.
Mm.
Do you have a close relationship with Bill? Are you guys pretty tight?
I do. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We're very close. We went through the same emotional intelligence course together. He's good friends with my brother.
Mhm.
So he's been a big mentor for me.
Yeah.
He's always available for me if I ask any questions. He always is. He's so intelligent and smart, and also has a really good outlook on life. So this is like one thing that has really been kind of accumulating in my mind lately, having children, is like, hey, I work really hard, but what's it all worth? I can't die with it, right?
Yeah.
And so Bill Perkins has really, the number one thing that I think Bill Perkins has got me to learn is how valuable time is, and that the only measurement that actually really matters is time. And so I see a lot of entrepreneurs who will debate in an like antagonizing way or anguishing way about whether they should make a new hire or not. And I now, because of Bill, will just hire a new assistant real quick. I have two assistants now. I'm hiring a third one, right? And I'm overspending. But you know what they're doing? They're allowing me to buy time for my life. And I'm not going to die with the money. I'm going to die with the experiences. So I'm going to be able to spend more time with my wife. I'm going to be more productive in my business. And I'm going to be able to spend more time on my health and for my children. And so like I remember making fun of Bill for having three assistants. Like, and he just looked at me, and I remember it like so clearly. He goes, "You just don't value time," and I didn't. I couldn't even hear it when he said that to me, right? Because we were like drinking, we are partying, we are having some fun. I think it was for some birthday, and we were lounging at a pool or something. And he just said that. It didn't really click to me till later on. I just said, "Oh shit, I don't value time."
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, my results in my life in every shape, way, or form has taken rock has rocketed once I learned the value of time.
Hmm. Well, speaking of that, I really do appreciate you making the time for me then on
Yeah, of course.
on this podcast through our mutual relationships. I knew that we would have a great time talking together. Just a lot of commonalities and good stuff. And just from afar, you can always tell when start studying someone and getting ready for an interview that hey, this is going to be actually a really fun person to talk to, right? So.
Thank you.
In valuing your time, I will finish up here with our power three. It's three questions that we ask every single guest, right?
Mhm.
One of my big points is like I really like getting into people's stories. I think we covered a lot of the beautiful points of your stories, and people will pull from that. But getting down to straight actionable advice, making sure that people leave with something that can help change their lives. First question that I always ask every guest is, what's something that you're learning right now? It could be a podcast, a book, a course, something that you're really just kind of diving into personally that you feel would be helpful for the audience if they find themselves in that place. Might be worth looking into.
Okay, sure. This will be geared towards men
Okay,
and not so much women, but it can be applied to women if this is what they're looking for.
sure.
So lately, the biggest thing that's been on the forefront of my mind of what I'm educating myself on, other than all the dad books and all the baby crap that we're having to learn, is a book called The Way of the Superior Man.
Hmm.
And I have found that it can be quite difficult in this environment of masculinity, of not being toxic masculinity, but also not losing yourself in your masculine essence, right? And so along the way, even with my relationship with Jessica, I don't know whether I should be more sensitive or if I should be or have more feminine attributes because of like kind of like societal pressures. Not that I really ever give it into societal pressures, but like trying to just be courteous and being a modern man. Along the way, I lost a piece of my masculinity
Hmm.
that was really a big churn on for Jessica and
Hmm.
a big uh, ignition and fire for myself. So this book, The Way of the Masculine or The Way of the Superior Man, really kind of brings that center and how to also be zen about things and not to react to things and how to stand in your masculinity but also being very like sensitive to your woman's needs and to your friends' needs and to your family's needs at the same time. So it's a beautiful book. And that's what I'm really, really practicing. And I've noticed a lot of change in my wife and I's relationship because of it. Um, and it also really resonates with me because that was a piece that I feel like, you know, a, not disconnected to, but a little disconnected to, just
I
kind of
think,
given the
yeah, and I
climate.
think it's. I would almost make a joke out of it real quick. Like it's tough to be smart, right? It's tough to be aware and smart and self-aware because you're like, man, you're like some people just don't even have to worry about this, right? Just be a lunk sometimes.
Ignorance is bliss.
Ignorance is bliss. Yes. So
Yeah,
no, I completely agree with you. I think in the want to be sensitive and appropriate and care about the people, like if Jessica's the biggest love of your life, right, you're going to want to provide her, and my wife's name is Jessica, so it's easy to
oh great.
have the same conversation. Want to provide the best version of you to your other half, right, without losing the individuality of that you're actually a male, right? That we're
Right.
males, that like we're hunters. We want to get after it. Even being wired for the kill, whether it's in real estate or on the
100%.
poker table or whatever else. And some of that zest, and then when we talk about feminine energies that we like males and females both carry, right? And finding a way of like how do we scale the balances in a way that just is right, that is correct, right? So yeah, and you know
Yep.
what, I haven't actually read that book, so I'll actually put that on my short list, man.
Okay, great. Yeah,
So
it's changed the game for me and my wife. So
way
it's been
way of
awesome.
the superior man. All right,
Yep.
number two, this is direct to the audience. This is an actionable tip that if they started applying today, would change their lives, that if they actually took it to heart, and started doing it from this day forward, it would actually help change their lives?
That is a loaded question. My answer will always be I always look for what's the biggest thing that we could do um, that has a massive compounding effect for later on. So
Yeah.
I try to always go for root causes and think big picture. And for me, what I have found time and time again, even with successful entrepreneurs in my peer groups, but really kind of a lack of just general society, is, in my opinion, if you don't have a crystal clear vision of what you want in the future. I mean, there's all this scientific reports that if you write down your goals, you're gonna like have a 90% chance more of it hitting those goals than somebody who doesn't, or something like that. But what I find is that anyone who has a question of what to do in the future, or they have a question of what move to make in the future or the near short term future, so you don't have a crystal clear vision. When I say crystal clear vision, don't just think about how much money you want to make. Think about the feelings that you want to feel, the people you want around you, the emotions you want, the smells that you want. How you want to have the feeling of how much your money you're going to have in the bank. You want to have a feeling of what the business life looks like. You want to have a lifestyle what your life looks like, and then really be anchored in that. And so what I found for me is that once I have a crystal clear vision for my next 10 years, which I always have a very crystal clear vision of my next 10 years, that vision will guide me to become whoever I need to become to hit that vision. So
Mm,
it's kind of like you need to change and let the results catch up. It's
that
not
makes sense.
it's not the other way around. So I know everyone talks about vision, but man, I live and die by my vision. It's crystal clear. It's on the forefront of my mind all the time.
To get real tactical on vision, I know a lot of people like to do vision boards. I've done vision boards. My wife and I actually do it together, which we find to be really which we sorry, we find to be really powerful. Let me see if I even have it right here. So we'll, Matt Aitchison
Oh,
kind of put me
amazing.
on
Yeah.
game for this, right? Podcast right here, being in the center of it, and
Yep.
Canva being a wonderful friend versus the old school way of getting all the magazines out and cutting up pictures. Is there
Oh, yeah.
some tactical
Yep.
tips that you guys do for putting together a vision board, or do you rewrite your 10-year vision every year because the small iterations, or do you set a 10-year vision and just let it fly?
Yeah. So I do a yearly vision board every December. I have notes in my phone. There's one like, you know, uh, place for it. So I just write down all of the things that I'm like, oh crap, this is what I want to work on the next year.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you go
Mm-hmm.
through the year, you're like, I kind of want to fine tune that. So every year, I'm still old school. I still have like a magazine. I still get but now it's becoming more of like just printing it on like good paper and putting it
Yeah,
up. But
yeah.
so I still have that, and then I have a 10-year vision board on top of it. And
Mm.
that is all lifestyle. That is like all my biggest goals that I want there. And then when I write a 10-year uh, goal, uh, I stick to it.
Okay.
Now, I will redefine it if I know I'm going to hit it in like 3 or 4 years. Like if I know I'm getting to it, I'll put the goalpost down or bigger. But uh, I also know what I want my life to be when I'm 60. I also know what I want my life to be like when I'm 80. I also know what I want my life to be like when I'm 100. So when I find like that is my edge, because what everything that I'm doing, I'm making for all of my different visions that I have for the future.
And
So,
all the avatars of the different ages of your life are just walking
correct.
into those versions, and you actually are able to walk into that version versus wandering around because you know the next click. Like it's like clicking into the 40 and 50-year-old Pasha, right?
Yeah, I'm very guided. I'm very guided by my, 100-year-old self. Like, because when I'm 100, I still want to be mentally aware and cognizant, and I want to be healthy. I want to be able to still. So, like, if I want to do that, I have to be as healthy as I am today, which is, doing the cold plunge when I don't want to do in the mornings, and setting rules for myself of I can't have coffee until I cold plunge. So, because I know when I'm 100, it's like a retirement account. I'm going to thank my 40-year-old self now for doing all of these things to make sure that I have longevity. So everything I do is just kind of guided by who I'm going to be by 100, and what kind of working myself backwards. Not kind of, I actually am working myself backwards.
Well, I think your life is a testament to kind of having this level of thoughtfulness. Once you start talking to people that have accomplished big things in their life, there is there is a longer time frame that you tend to think over. And
Yeah.
I'm really appreciative of that, because I think sometimes being action oriented, like even like myself, I can definitely fall prey to short term thinking, right? Short term results. But a lot of times, like you said, the short moves that could win today don't really compound to get the real heavy 10-year win, or even ending up in exactly the right spot. So ever since, what's funny is ever since we've been doing the vision, we've been hitting the things on the vision board. And
Yeah. Always.
I don't think that that's a coincidence at all. So it's made me realize, hey, I got to actually be careful about what I put on there, because if I'm just kind of not really being thoughtful about what we put on there and hit it, we're ending up with a life that we don't want, right? So
Yeah.
that's number two on the power three. That was really helpful. Thank you for that really expanded answer. Number three, is I always believe that amazing people are running with other amazing people. We're all 1 degree from each other, right? Build a network before you need it. My life has been a testament to a lot of the amazing people that have fed into me, and I've been able to feed into others. But an ask that I do like to make on the podcast is, we're building this for the long term. This is season one. So the answer to this may not even happen right now. It'll be at some future point. But who is someone that you believe would be a great fit for the podcast and that you'd be happy to make an introduction to?
I think there's a lot of incredible people. I think one person that there, I have a ton. I can give you a list of 10 people right
Of
now.
course.
It's
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
my Go Abundance friends, but somebody who I really admire about his tenacity in life and the way he attacks health and his businesses, and he's just incredible. Dan Nunny
Okay.
is
Dan Nunny.
Nunny. Yeah,
Okay.
I call him Nunny Money.
Nunny
Um,
money. I like that.
but he's like Captain America, man. That's my nickname for him. He's a good buddy of mine, but happy to make an introduction. Cody Littlewood, Kevin Mills is a stud. Ryan Bowden, Bob Castellini,
And
like
I know
all
it's
of
hard
these
too.
guys.
That's what's tough too. Is like when I put anybody that's amazing on the spot, you have a lot of amazing people, and you just, it's not to offend anybody by not mentioning their name, right? Because if
Yeah,
you
I'm
were to
sure I'm
start,
forgetting like 6 or 7 people.
show appreciation toward
Kevin
amazing
Gray.
people.
I mean, like I'm telling you, there's just so many great people that
All right,
aren't
and
that I
I'll just
learned
go with
from.
the first one, because I just, and we'll take it from there. But Nunny money, we are actually coming for you. You might be season two or season three, but we're coming for you. Pasha, I do really appreciate the time today. Thank you so much for being on. Hang around for a second. It's always fun to pretend like we're on TV and get that, before the break talk. So give me 2 seconds here. Thanks again for coming on.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.